Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show podcast. I'm very happy to introduce to you Skylar Culbertson from William and Mary College. And Skylar wrote a piece at thecollegefix.com, a couple of weeks ago about an experience that she had in working with her group, Tribe for Life, arguing for a pro-life policy or pro-life approach, and the sort of insane reaction that it engendered. Skylar, first off, welcome. And man, I hope things are going better for you this week than they were a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me on, Ed. Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. So kind of just to preface what all happened. So we had Kristen Hawkins come to our campus to speak. So if you're not familiar, she is the president of the National Organization Students for Life.
Yep.
One of her main talking points the day that she came was men cannot have babies. And, this is a very important conversation to have, especially, with the issue of abortion. And following that speaking event, there have been tons of hate messages. And then one student actually put, Tribe for Life, which is the name of my club, makes me want to commit suicide and mass murder. So things have just been crazy since then. And even last Friday, I was harassed by a trans student even following that event. So it has been crazy.
I don't think and by the way, I know Kristen. I've interviewed Kristen a number of times. She's a very sane, very gracious voice. So she's obviously assertive and she's passionate about her position, but I've never seen Kristen be somehow the type of person who would require that type of vitriolic response. And so I did hear about Kristen Hawkins's reception here at William and Mary, and I think it's actually starting to become more and more of an issue on college campuses. A little surprised William and Mary being one of those, but it's become more and more of an issue on college campuses that you just simply, there is no tolerance for any heterodox point of view on anything that deviates from academia's preferred narratives.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we saw what happened at VCU, so Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond. Kristen was harassed, and then again with Riley Gaines in San Francisco. It's happening all across the country. And it's crazy that people feel that they need to resort to violence to, get across their social goals. And Ed, I recently read a study. I think this was done during the COVID pandemic, and they found that trans individuals were like the most prone to violent radicalization. So, they're willing to go to violence to achieve their goals, which is crazy.
Well, we're kind of seeing that in what happened with Riley Gaines. We're kind of seeing that in other contexts as well. Now, you've been a conservative voice on your campus for a couple of years, and you write about this at thecollegefix.com. So it's not news to you that that makes you a target for criticism. And if it was just criticism, it'd probably be just fine. I mean, that's how you get debates going, and you can have fair debates even in an academic setting where you're the minority opinion. But that's not really what's happening. And this is an escalation of a trend that's been coming on the entire time you've been at William and Mary, I would assume.
Yes, absolutely. Last semester, my club did a tabling event, and we actually had one student throw a cup of urine on my club members. So thankfully, after the Virginia Attorney General got involved, that student was arrested. But it's just crazy, what all the students are doing. We chalked outside of our campus just some pro-life messages. And one of them was just the statistic that about 80% of babies with Down syndrome are aborted. And within, just 10 minutes of us putting that chalk up, it was immediately erased. And this is actually like a policy violation if students erase our chalk. And it's just crazy, it's a fact. And if it bothers them that much, then you would think, maybe they need to rethink their stance on abortion.
Yeah, I want to get to abortion. I also want to get to the transgender thing, because I want to ask you a couple things about that apart from what this protest was about. But you talk a little bit about you becoming more active after the leak of the Dobbs decision in May of 2022. So it's almost a year ago.
Yes.
we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary. May 3rd was the 1 year anniversary of that leak. How has the environment changed at William and Mary College since that leak?
Yeah, I think everything has become a little bit more. I mean, obviously, it's a very touchy subject to begin with, but I think students are again resorting to violence and just really willing to go to extreme measures is what we're seeing. I know just with everything that we do, I get tons of hate messages. My DMs are always full with people just saying the most obscene things to me. And even when we table, it seems that they're not even willing to have conversations at all. And you think, just at William & Mary, we should be able to, have simple conversations about the abortion issue, trans issues, anything, just be able to talk like normal people. And that is just not the case. And it is very sad to see.
Yeah. I mean, again, it doesn't feel very inclusive. It sounds like it's, in fact, the opposite of inclusive, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. For a school that prides itself, on diversity and inclusion, whenever there's one, pro-life student, they're not very inclusive at all.
So what has the response been from William and Mary College? I mean, this is their property. That's their responsibility to, I don't want to say safe space because I hate the term safe space. And I think you probably would object to it anyway. But I mean, a campus really should be an area where you can have these sorts of debates without fear of violence, without fear of physical attacks or doxing. I want to talk to you a little bit about the doxing because you mentioned it.
Yes.
And it's really up to the campus. It's really up to the administration to set those terms and to enforce them by disciplining people who violate those standards. Have you seen anything like that at William and Mary College?
Unfortunately, no. And every time that I've run into an issue, I've met with the dean on several occasions, and he normally just directs me right to the police department. And now there have been the several instances where, our chalk was erased and our posters were taken down. The students that did that received a talking. There was no consequences. It just was a simple talking. So it's like any student would just, want to do it again, right? If all they get is a little talking. So it seems like the administration at William & Mary is really not doing anything, and it's really unacceptable.
So because you've had these experiences, and coming back around to the incident that you're writing about, because you've had these experiences, the Tribe for Life has decided that it's going to start hiring security for its events because people have thrown urine at you, people have attacked you, people have made threats to you. So you hired security, and that was sort of ridiculed by the student newspaper. And again, I'm a big favor of free speech, so ridicule is fine. But that's kind of what stirred up this last hornet's nest. And frankly, I would think that the college would be concerned that one of its student groups had to have its own security in order to just have a conversation on campus about an important issue.
Yes. Yeah, at every event, it seems that something has happened where we have had to call the police. So, might as well just start having security at all of our events. And it's crazy that students would want to make fun of that. And I actually have, I sent an email to school administration several days ago, and I'm still actually waiting on a response to see what actions they are going to take in response to that newspaper article that the school put out. So we'll see. But yeah, it is just ridiculous.
So tell us about the doxing. I mean, what have you and your group experienced in terms of doxing? And what has the university done about that?
Yes. So, starting last year, whenever I became outspoken about my pro-life beliefs, there's not actually too many other people that are outspoken. So all of the attacks have been on me, and students will post on Yik Yak. They will, say my name. Yik Yak, if you're not familiar, is an anonymous social media app, which kind of makes it a problem because, everybody's just kind of willing to say whatever they want. Yeah. So they've put, my name on there, just, Skylar's horrible. She's a threat. We hate her. All of these things. There have also, I had to go undercover in the Planned Parenthood group chat, that the club that we have on campus. And I found that they were actually taking screenshots of my Instagram, just talking about me in there. So I was hoping to get that club unchartered just for, doxing and sharing all this personal information about me. And yeah, so it's crazy. Actually, last semester, there were several students on this anonymous platform, Yik Yak, that were actually posting my location. So whenever they would see me on campus, they would be like, Skylar is here at this coffee shop. She's at the science center. So I even had to have a security guard for one of my events just to give a presentation on abortion for one of my classes.
That's insane, right? I mean, this is, again, this is a college. You'd think, first off, you'd think people would have better things to do at a college, especially William and Mary is one is, I mean, that's a pretty storied institution of higher learning. It seems like they've got an awful lot of free time on their hands. Maybe the solution here is that professors should assign a lot more homework. I'm being a little glib here, so, but I mean it's kind of crazy, isn't it, that they have this much free time to track you on campus? What are they doing there?
I know. I ask myself the same question as well.
I don't mean to make light of it because this is really scary stuff. And the fact that you have to rely on a security guard to attend your classes and to do presentations in classes is absurd. And, I don't know that the police are really going to do a whole lot about that, because I think that they would assume that William and Mary are supposed to be taking care of this. You say that they keep referring you to the police. What do the police tell you when you tell them that William and Mary referred you to them about these issues?
Yes. So actually recently with that threat, they just issued a security plan, which is essentially just, they went through, this is what you need to do if you feel, you're in danger. But that was about it. They really are not taking action. Recently, just past Friday, I had my flag display, which is called the Cemetery of Innocent, which is to represent lives lost to abortion. That was vandalized. They've still not identified the student. And it seems, working with them, unfortunately, multiple instances, they have not been helpful at all and really do not take action. And it's like, I have so much to do already as a student, having to follow up with them all the time. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, Skylar, I mean, it really is. This is really ridiculous. And by the way, again, this is Skylar Culbertson at William and Mary. Should I ask you what you're studying at William and Mary, and what your target graduation date is, just so we know, where you're at in the school cycle?
So I'm actually film and media studies major. So as you can imagine, a very, very liberal department. I came in kind of being more liberal, so I did not change my major. But yes, I am set to graduate May of this year. So,
well, that's going to be a relief.
Oh yes,
yeah.
I cannot.
I'll bet. So did the experience on campus? You said you came in as sort of a little bit more liberal. I'm assuming you're liberal, but pro-life. You're probably pro-life when you came in as well. Has that experience changed you? Has this experience changed your political outlook and how you see politics and how you see both policy and culture?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I always tell people, if you come to William and Mary, you're more than likely going to become a liberal, just because of the indoctrination in our classrooms. But I think I was just the one rare instance where the very first class that I took at William and Mary as a transfer student was COVID-19 and the pandemic. And we were asked to read this book that was bashing Donald Trump. And all of our conversations in class were, centered around, politics and just very, very, very liberal. And I was like, oh my gosh, indoctrination is not just a right-wing talking point. Like, it's actually real. And ever since then, I pretty much changed. I, did my own research. I used DuckDuckGo instead of using, Google to get my resources, so I don't have to go to page 10 to find, a different opinion. And now, I consider myself pretty much like a MAGA Republican, about as far right as you can get. That's all thanks to the craziness of William and Mary and the liberals.
Yeah. And I think that, it's probably more rare to see that type of outcome than just flat out indoctrination. But I imagine that there are a lot of people who get their eyes opened in these terms. And as campus politics become more and more radically left, there's probably a wider range of people who whose politics change the other direction because they see this. And I think it's very interesting that that's been part of what you've seen. I want to go back though. You were mentioning Kristen Hawkins's argument, which is what touched off uh, part of the outrage on campus, which is that men can't have babies. And look, I mean, I don't get an awful lot of chance to talk to college students about how they perceive gender policy and gender politics. To me, as old as I am, I mean that is such a basic statement of fact that is almost absurd that you have to make it. Yeah, men can't have babies. That's about as objectively real as anything else you could possibly say. And yet today, it's it's anathema because of this idea that you can choose your own sex simply on the force of your own will, and biology has nothing to do with it. How does that resonate with you in terms of your own gender identity, right? In terms of the fact that, this seems to be basically erasing women in a particular way that erodes some of the protections that have been built up for women, especially on campuses over the last, 40 years or so.
Yes, that is a great question. You would think that the feminists of today would be the people that would be saying, wait a second, we have to stop. We are actually going backwards in history where, men are allowed to compete in women's sports. And it's just so unfair. You were seeing, a complete erasure of women yet again. And I know even just at William & Mary in all of our classes, a lot of the professors will ask us to use, pronouns and things like that. And it's just like, I am not going to endorse this belief that, there's more than two genders, because there's not. And really, people are just, there's no truth anymore. People just, everything is a social construct, and that's not the case. And I'm really, not too sure. I think this is $1 million question. How do you get people to rethink their stance on that? And I really don't know what that is. But what I know from my conversations with students at William & Mary is that the majority of them believe that there are more than two genders. So very lost, and it is sad to see.
Well, it is sad to see, and it does answer another question I was just about to ask you, which is, do you think that this is more or less just something that's imposed on students and they're complying with it because just, revolting against it would be too costly, or are they really buying into this? And it sounds to me like what you're saying is that most of them are really buying into this biology as a social construct argument, which if that's the case, then I think that William & Mary is really doing a great disservice to this generation and succeeding generations in terms of real education.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I would say the majority are buying into this, but then there are a group of students, that agree with me, but yet they continue to, use their pronouns anyway. And it's really sad to see. I wish more people would stand up and say, you know what, this isn't right. I'm going to refuse to use my pronouns. So I think if we could have more individuals that were willing to say no, then things could really start to change in our country.
Well, I think it's an emperor has no clothes sort of issue. And by trying to just go along and saying, oh yeah, those clothes look really beautiful, it's extending and deepening this. I mean, I'm not even sure what to call it. I mean, it has elements of social panic. It has elements of Mao's Cultural Revolution. The French Revolution has elements of that as well. There's all sorts of different historical analogies you can make to this, but I don't think anybody's ever bought into it like this, as is happening right now with American culture, and it's very disturbing to see.
Yes. Yeah. And what's funny, Ed, is actually the other day, whenever I had my flag display, there was a trans student that came by, and he was, recording me. He was in my personal space. And I asked him, I said, could you please leave? And he did not leave. So that is what caused me to, call the police on him. And whenever the police officer finally came, the student actually told the police officer, he said, she misgendered me. Like the issue wasn't, me being harassed, but whether or not he was, being called the right thing, a she, they, which is what he identified as. And actually the police officer, instead of taking care of the situation, the first thing he asked was, well, what would you like me to refer you to as? And it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's like, what world are we living in?
Well, police are a lot like parents. They're not necessarily, I don't mean this as a knock on police, because they have a very difficult job, but a lot of times they're not really interested in justice. They're just interested in peace and quiet, because that's their core job. And so basically all they try to do is de-escalate and deal with a acute situation by just putting an end to it. But yes, that's disturbing, and it's disturbing, maybe not, but disheartening, I think, is a better term for it.
Yes, for sure.
So one last question on this, and then we'll just finish up with links back to Tribe for Life and what you're doing at William and Mary. But is this because William and Mary, I'll say academia because it's happening all over. You've already mentioned that, but of course your personal experiences at William and Mary. Is this happening because academia has just been so determined to indoctrinate on these principles? That's true in terms of abortion as well as in terms of the trans agenda and that sort of thing. Or is it because this generation of people have grown up to be almost neurotically oversensitive and and narcissistic, I think, is the only way that you can put this. Demand that everybody understand what your own preferred pronouns are is, I think, the height of narcissism. And I'm curious as to whether or not you see this as just a generational issue because of the way that, my generation and the generation after me raised this current crop of college students, or if you think that this is really a concerted effort by academics, or both. Maybe it's both.
Yes. Yeah, I would have to answer both to that. I think, one of the major causes of our problems really comes back to, I'm a Christian. I think it comes back to, people just turning away from God and also families as well, and not raising their children in the way that they should be raised. I think, that is a huge cause of the majority of our issues in our society. And again, with the indoctrination in our schools as well. At William and Mary, we're actually forced to take what they call our CALL classes, COLL classes. And all of these are, diversity, equity, inclusion, and we're forced to take these. So it is definitely, a concerted effort on their part.
Interesting. And so you're getting out in May. So congratulations to you. Ahead of time, about a month from now, you'll be graduating. So congratulations to you. What are your plans?
I think I deserve and I really need a year off.
I think you're right.
So yes, I'm definitely going to take a year off. After that, I'm still trying to figure everything out. I'm considering the military, and then also maybe staying within the pro-life movement. So we'll just see what God's plans are, but that's the plan as of right now.
Well, all I can say to that is amen and best of luck to you. I suspect we're going to be hearing a lot from you, Skylar, in the coming years. So I will feel very blessed to have had you here at this point in time. And I thank you very much for your observations here. Do you want to share websites for Tribe for Life? Anything else that you're pursuing?
Yeah, sure. So you can follow us on Instagram. It's WM Tribe for Life. And then my personal Instagram is Skylar Culbertson. And also wanted to shout out to College Fix who published my article as well. So want to thank them for having me on. And yeah.
I'll give a shout out to the collegefix.com too, because they're the ones who alerted me to this story and asked if they could facilitate this. Much appreciated, thecollegefix.com. And Skylar, again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Ed.
Now that the political infighting is over and the sausage is being made in the House, it's time for Republicans to unite with one cause and fight back against Joe Biden and his radical administration. The GOP has promised to investigate Biden family corruption, the border, big tech censorship collusion, the origins of COVID, the FBI, and intel agencies' attacks on the American people, and more. And it's time to hold them to those promises. Here at Hot Air, we won't let up on holding them accountable. We unapologetically fight back against the radical left and squishy rhinos in Congress who fail the people. We bring you the truth and go to war against Biden's woke communist agenda. But we need your help. By becoming a VIP for hotair.com, you can help us in this battle for our country. Just look at the House Democrats leader Hakeem Jeffries. He's another divisive radical leftist, and his communist Sesame Street speech proves it. If Republicans don't halt the Biden agenda and conservative media fails to hold them accountable, it could mean the end of our great country. Join us in the fight. Become a Hot Air VIP member or a VIP Gold member today and use the promo code SAVEAMERICA to receive a 40% discount on your membership. Stand with us and fight to save America. We will never give up. And thank you very much.